Welcome back to the Painting Coach, and in this tutorial we're going to be painting that Damsel of Death, Lelith Hesperax. If this is your first time on the channel and you want to learn how to paint all your Warhammer minis, learn about miniature painting in general and pick up loads of tips and tricks, then please consider subscribing, and don't forget, hit that bell so you're notified of all my latest content. Here we are then with the new Lelith Hesperax model, and it's a very good model, very nice and dynamic. So I've primed it black and I've primed it with some white over the top, and the first thing we're going to do is we're going to base all the flesh areas with Rakarth Flesh. Now the flesh will be one of the last colours we do, but I just want to get this base coat down. So make sure we cover it all over all the sort of flesh areas. And it doesn't matter if you're messy at this point either, just make sure you get a good even coverage, because by doing this bit first it just means that once we kind of get on and doing the bits of the clothing in black and the red hair, it means that if we make any mistakes it's going to be really easy to come back in and touch up the base colour for the skin. Now you might be wondering why I didn't just leave this black, and it's because of the way I'm going to do all the other parts of the model. So like the hair, for example, it's easier to start with a light base because it's just going to be quicker in terms of how long it takes. So get all that done. If you need 2 coats, use 2, and then we'll come back and start on the black skin suit next. Once you're happy with the coverage of the Rakarth Flesh, let's get that skin suit done and all the kind of bits of armour plate. So the colour we're going to base this with is Abaddon Black. Thinned it with a little bit of water, and we're just going to work our way around, get everything covered. Now you'll see in some places it covers quite well. In other places you might need to put a second coat on, so just take your time, as ever, working around the model, taking a moment to enjoy what you're creating, and obviously just be a little bit careful around when you come to these areas where you've kind of finished the flesh. So get that done. Hopefully you should be able to cover it in 1 coat. There may be some areas where you need 2. But get that done and we'll come back and we'll have a look at highlighting it all next. Once all that black's done, you can go in and tidy up some of the flesh with the Rakarth Flesh if you need to. But we're going to start highlighting, and the colour I'm going to use for this is Incubi Darkness. Now if you look at the box art, there's kind of a funny kind of highlight on the armour where it's kind of a greeny grey. So we're going to try and replicate that. So the first thing we want to do is just take this Incubi Darkness and just highlight on the kind of the higher raised areas. Now I'm not being too careful in terms of catching edges, because with this model there's kind of like the leather you have here, but there's also the sharper edges that you've got on things like the legs, and we'll pick that out when we come to do it with the greys. But let's just get this darky greeny blue colour on first as the first highlight, and then we'll come back and we'll worry about those sharp edges in the next step. So go around all the armour like that. You can see I've already done the back leg there. There's not too much, but it does give a nice kind of contrast. So get that done and we'll come back and sharpen those highlights up. The first highlight we're going to pop on is going to be Mechanicus standard grey. Now you can probably see what I've done there. So I'll show you without paint first. So for these plates, it's just outlining the edge and then just kind of stippling on a little bit of a shine. Because again, we're looking at the box art armor. So if we look at how we're going to do this on here, so all we're looking to do is to catch the raised edges. And then where you haven't got raised edges, just make sure you use a good point on the brush. Now if you make any mistakes here and you go in a little bit too thick or a little bit too thin, then it's really easy to fix just with some of that Incubi Darkness. And then when it comes to the non-hard parts, so things like the leather and the bodice here, just gonna stipple it into the highest area, just tapping with the brush. See, it's not much of a highlight, but when we add the next kind of light to it, it'll really kind of pop out. So work your way around the model, getting all that done, and we'll come back and we'll give it another sharper highlight next. The last colour we're going to use in terms of these highlights is going to be Administratum Grey, which is quite a bit of a jump. So I've thinned it down a bit. I want to make sure I haven't got too much on my brush, and I've got a good point. And kind of similar to what we did really before. We're looking to catch those sharp edges. Just making sure I'm staying in focus here and you can see what I'm doing. And just really creating dots of light. So for example on the arm, the vambrace here, just working down into that a little and then picking up down to the bottom. So really we're looking to catch all the sharpest bits that are going to catch the most light. So work your way around the model doing that, and then when you're happy you've got everything, we'll come back. If you think that you need to redo some bits, and I'm looking at it now, thinking there's little bits untidy, which I'm just going to go and tidy up with some of the darker colours. We'll come back and we'll do that hair next. So to do the hair, we're going to first cover it all with Wraithbone. Now this is thinned down quite a bit because the pot's quite thick. Now where we've done that Zenith or Prime, you can see that actually it covers pretty well. Probably going to need maybe 2 coats on the black bit underneath. And the other colour I want to do with this is this kind of streamer coming off the knife even, just there. So work your way around, get this hair all based, get the wrap based as well. Don't worry if you spill onto the face because we'll go back and fix that before we come to actually paint all the skin later. So get that done and we'll come back and we'll make it red next. Painting this hair is really nice and simple. Just going to use some Blood Angels red contrast paint, and we want to just spread it out because we don't want it to pool anywhere, but you can see straight away it's given us the colour of Lelith's hair. So paint it on, paint it all over. Make sure you do this in kind of one go, don't let it dry and then go back to it, and make sure it's not pooling in too many recesses either. So get all that done, and then once it's dry we'll come back and we'll highlight it. Once that's dry, we want to give it a little highlight. So the colour we're going to use for this is Wild Rider Red. Just make sure I can actually pronounce that. And in terms of catching those highlights as she falls off the holder, you're looking to just catch along the raised areas. Just like that, so it's nice and easy. Now when you come to the things like the top of the head itself, what we're looking to do is just find those raised areas and just pull the line down to create that texture. So work your way all the way around the model, and then when you're happy that highlighting is done, we'll come back and we might just add a little bit extra in some areas just to accentuate the shine of the hair and the light hitting it. It's got a nice rich bright reddy orange hair, and I think what we want to do is we just want to define some of it a little more. So I'm just going to take some Cadian Fleshtone, not too much on the brush. And what we're looking to do is we're just looking to highlight some of these strands, leaving shadow in the dark spaces, because it'll just add some definition to some of these hairs. So work your way around, don't use this everywhere, you just want to use a little, and once it dries it'll just really brighten up some of those areas. I'm then going to go back and I'm going to finish off, or rather I'm going to tidy up around the skin where I've spilt, and then we'll come back and I think we'll do the metals next. So we'll make a start on the silver metallics, and the colour I'm going to use for this is Iron Hand Steel, which is a fairly bright silver, and we're looking to paint the blades. There's a fair few bits of silver on the model, so we've got the blades, we've got this kind of chain with a sharp edge on it that we need to do, and then we've got all the spikes coming off Lelith as well. So if you're not sure which ones have got to be silver, I'm just painting them all silver. And obviously this bit of guard by the shoulder. So get that all done and we'll come back and we'll give it all a bit of a shade next. I'm going to shade this silver with a different colour to what we'd normally use. I'm going to use Coelia Greenshade, and the reason for that is because it'll just kind of show the silver reflecting some of the colours on the armour. Now I'm not going crazy with it. I'm and I'm not flooding any areas with it. So hopefully this is in focus. So it's probably too much on there, so I'm clean my brush and I'm just going to run it back over, so I'll still get the hint of the colour on there, but it gives that nice reflection. So do that on all the silver. Now things like the handles of the knives, and there's a little bit on this chain as well which is going to be gold, just leave that as it is, and we'll do the gold after we do the silver highlight next. So the model is starting to come together at the moment. You can see it's obviously a lot more colour on it, which really does help. So the first thing we're going to do is, in terms of this, we're going to highlight that silver and use my old faithful chrome from Vallejo Model Air, not thinned down. What we're looking to do is we're looking to just catch those sharp edges of the knives. Show you along there as well. Just really conscious that the focus is okay on it, so we're looking to catch those sharp edges, and essentially that's what we're looking to do all the way around on all of the silver. So when you've got the spikes on the legs, it's the chrome that's really going to make them pop. So work your way around, making sure you get all of that done, all of the silver as bright and as shiny as you want, and then we'll do the gold next. So for the gold, what we're going to do is just take some Nazdreg Yellow contrast paint again, and we're just going to paint this over those bits we want to be gold. So we've got the clasps on the bodysuit there, buckles. We've got the best place to show it whilst making sure I'm in focus on the handle of the knife there. We've also got this little connecting bit here in gold. So work your way around, get that all done, and then we'll come back and I think we'll do the top knot wraps, and then we're onto the skin to finish off. The wrap is really easy, just some Skeleton Horde contrast paint. In terms of painting the black, I just painted that exactly the same way that I did the armour, with just the black and then the greys rather than the Incubi Darkness. So do both sides of that, let it dry, and then we're on to the skin. So let's move on to the flesh. Now this is going to be one of the, or perhaps the most important part of the model, because it's really going to accentuate everything. To start off, what I've done is, if you've made any mistakes, go back in with your Rakarth Flesh just to tidy up. And now I've got a mix of 1-to-1 Rakarth Flesh and Pallid Wych Flesh. And generally what I'm going to do with this is paint all the raised areas. So I'm not worrying about shading it or anything like that. I'm just looking to catch all those raised areas to start to generate some difference. So as we're working across the ab muscles here, we're leaving that Rakarth Flesh in the deepest recesses, but we're putting this mix over the top. So if we look at the arm here, for example, it's quite a bit lighter than the Rakarth Flesh on its own, but it's not so stark that you can easily see the jump. So just work your way around the model like that, getting that differentiation of colour, and then we'll come back in with the next highlight. Next up, we want to make that flesh a bit lighter, but again, we don't want the step to be too huge. So what we're doing, just take some pure Pallid Wych Flesh. I've not thinned it down too much. And now we're just going to kind of look to catch some of those edges and those raised areas, like the cheekbone, working down into the cheek there. But you can see in terms of the differentiation between the lighter colours, it's not that much. So working your way around the model, again, we're looking at things like the abs, looking at painting those most raised areas, and then we'll come back. I think perhaps one more highlight on the face, and then we'll look to just add a little bit of life to the flesh. The last thing I'm going to do is going to just add some brighter highlights on the face, really, because it really is the centerpiece of the model. And for that, I'm just going to use a little bit of white scar. Now, I've not thinned it down because mine's fairly thin anyway. You can see as I pull it through there. But what I want is a good point, and make sure I haven't got too much on my brush. And I'm just going to use this on things like the cheekbones and the nose, those kind of raised areas, just to give the face some extra shine to it, and a little bit down here, just kind of stippling it in, not highlighting it in. So once I'm happy with that, which I am, might just go and highlight the ears a little bit as well. We'll come back and we'll start to just add some kind of warmth to it. To add some warmth to the flesh, just going to use some Guilliman Flesh contrast paint. It's 2-part contrast medium to 1-part contrast paint, and you can see that when you work it on, you get that kind of warmth, but you don't have to worry too much about it staining the model. So just kind of painting this all over. So when you come to the face, you want to be a little careful, just want to paint it into around the eyes, just to add some of that definition back. So work your way around all the flesh like that. If you feel you need a bit of extra, then you can always add a second covering when it's dry, and we'll have a little look at the tattoo next. It's going to be a bit of a challenge to show you on camera, but we'll give it a go. Right, you're going to have to bear with me while I try and show you this. So what we're doing is we're using Blood Angel's red contrast paint. Now make sure you haven't got too much on your brush, and make sure you've got a good point. What we're looking to do is just draw a line under the eye, and then we're looking to just draw up into it, and that will give you Lelith's tattoo, which I'm probably going to go away and refine off cam, but that's generally the idea. In terms of the other things I'm going to do, I'm just going to put the black streak in her hair using just the Abaddon Black and Mechanicus Grey. But otherwise, Lelith is done. Base her how you want to match the rest of your army. I've just used contrast paints there, and I'm going to put a snowy base on because that's the theme of the Dark Elder army that I'm currently working on. So there we are. We'll have a look at it on the turntable next. So there we have it. Lelith is done and ready to dominate the tabletop. I really hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. If you have, please leave a like and a comment down below. It really helps me make sure I'm creating the kind of content that you want to see. If you would like to support me and the channel, you can do so using the links in the description. There's a link for my Patreon where you can get exclusive access to me via my Discord, as well as live monthly frequently asked question feeds, some giveaways and various other bits and pieces. There's also the link for Goblin Gaming where you can get up to 20% of all your wargaming needs, and there's my links for Amazon where you can see my recommended equipment. Thanks again for watching. I'll see you next time.